Welcome to this PSFK webinar on the power of NFT technology and its impact on the future of advertising, marketing, and brand engagement. We have a great hour of talks ahead of us, and we're excited to have you join us. Do use the chat function to say hi and share your thoughts. Let's get the show started with the founder of PSFK and Retail Innovation Week and our host, Piers Fox.
Hello, everybody. I've been lucky enough to live through two technology revolutions in my career. I was lucky enough to see the internet develop, and in the 90s, I was involved in the Web 1 revolution. And I also saw social media and the rise of social media and how it changed the way people interacted with each other and with brands online. And at both stages, there were people who were deriding, there were companies who couldn't believe the change that was going to take place. But we all know that those changes, those new technologies created considerable transformation. And in fact, we can't even imagine a world without social media, without the internet, and so forth. Today, we are at another moment of change with Web3 technology, with NFTs, with blockchain, and with all the other components of this kind of decentralized technology system. We are about to witness a radical change in terms of how organizations get created, how people interact with those organizations, and how people interact with each other. It's important for marketers and people in business to understand how to use specifically NFT technology, this token technology, because I believe, and we believe at PSFK, that this technology is going to revolutionize the way that brands, retailers, and commercial businesses interact with their audiences. I'm looking forward to going through this webinar. I'm lucky enough to have my colleague Lauren Lyons with me today.
Hey Piers, hi everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
At least someone's smiling. Yeah, I'll have to remember to smile. And we're also very lucky to have a panel of experts who we invited to help us talk through the opportunities when it comes to NFTs. Hi everybody. Well, it's great to have everybody here. Let's take a moment to find out more about the experts we have on the session today.
Joining us today is Web Wright, a journalist for The Drum who covers Web3. Diana Richter-O is the head of marketing and brand at the Consensus Mesh blockchain incubator. Valve Conte is the award-winning director of strategy and product innovation at leading CX company Merkle. Also joining us today is Michael Littman, is the first senior director of Web3 and NFTs at global digital media powerhouse MediaMarks. Louisa St. Pierre is the global director of art and experiential for the renowned agency EMI Group. Justine Vilgrain is the co-founder of the culture-shaping Web3 agency Browhouse and a founding member of NFT Factory. Isadora Yamamoto is a Web3 strategist and meta-poet maneuvering through different mediums, both analog and digital. And finally, Melody Hildebrandt is the EVP of Consumer Products and Engineering at Fox, where she also serves as Group Chief Information Security Officer and President of Fox's Web3 media company Blockchain Creative Labs.
I'm excited to listen to the contribution of all of those experts that we've invited today. The narrative that we've constructed today for this session revolves around a report that Lauren and her team have put together, which has studied the uses of NFT technology to create smarter marketing. So this report helps brands, retailers, anybody involved in communicating with customers, and said how tokenization will drive the future of brand and consumer engagement. Lauren, what would you say is driving the rise of this NFT adoption?
That's right, Piers. Yeah. So a couple things that are driving this adoption from our perspective right now, we're really seeing how token tech is enabling this faster innovation and really empowering an evolved customer experience. We're also looking at how companies and Web3 communities are already doing the work and already reimagining how we market and sell goods and services through NFT technologies. And then we're also looking at how this ability to really trace usage and the ability to apply smart contracts is driving brand adoption as a really important brand engagement tool. And so now I will roll into a few insights too from our report and from our research that are also pointing towards how we see NFTs really evolving and going forward. One interesting insight to kind of kick this off, whether NFTs are being perceived as a passing cultural fad or a mainstay, as we believe, they have experienced a really noticeable growth in a short time period. Great stat over here from Routers. And, 2020, they were at 94.9 million total sales volume. Looking at NFT sales volume in 2021, that rose to 23 billion. So a significant leap there. Another insight we wanted to call out here as well, and a piece of this narrative, is how NFTs are already reshaping that brand management experience as it really relates to both experiences and events. And this is a really great quote that we wanted to highlight as well. Owning an NFT inherently identifies community members or attendees, and the access rights to whatever experiences, benefits, or rewards are linked to it. We really think that's an important piece of this, right? The community aspect, and then those added benefits as well. And then just kind of building on that community aspect here alongside NFTs, we're finding that, creating NFTs is really giving brands this opportunity to connect with their consumers in a novel way that's facilitating community and two-way connection. And a great stat here we came across, 50% of current NFT owners say that community is really the major contributor that's driving their collecting, right? So we definitely want to highlight really the community aspect that plays alongside these NFT technologies.
Now, I think one of the changes that's taking place today is the kind of normalization of NFT ownership, access, sharing, purchase. And for those of you who've been in this space for a couple of years, you've witnessed the difficulties to own cryptocurrency, to own NFTs, the bridges that you have to create sometimes. And what's happening is accessing these digital assets is getting as easy as signing in with your social provider. And in fact, some NFT owners don't even realize they have a wallet. They just sign into a system. I think what we're doing is beginning to peel back all those barriers, those technical terms, and just trying to simplify the process to the end user. And I think one thing to say is it's still very, very early, and there's amazing opportunity. There's only 11 million Ethereum addresses that hold over $100 worth of Ethereum today. So that's a tiny market. And with all the noise around the Bored Ape Yacht Club, there's only 6,200, maybe 6,300 almost owners, holders of those apes. So there's a tiny community. However, very important. Some people might not enjoy the hype around that, but the things that community and similar communities are trying to do, we can learn so much from. And again, Nike and Artifact, again, pioneering vision, but only a small number of people, 836 people hold these digital Nike shoes that they've created in collaboration. So we have a long way to go.
And so for the rest of this webinar, how we've kind of framed up the rest of our research, we're looking at a framework where we're looking at now, next, and new. And so when we talk about now, we're really looking at how brands and retailers can be using NFTs to provide really unique value to their consumers. Building on that, in the next stage, we're seeing how NFTs can be used as a token of access and membership and kind of coming into the loyalty play there. And then when we look even further out into the new, we're seeing how NFTs are really becoming useful platforms for new ideas.
That's great. So let's get into that first section. I mean, this section is really about table stakes when it comes to how brands and retailers get involved in Web3. These are strategies that you can get involved with today, helping customers create digital identities and being involved in collectibles and proof of fandom. In this first strategy, we're talking about how customers and people are already using NFT art to create identity. No doubt you are very aware of the buying of art, the selling of art, and the different things that are going on when it comes to JPEG art and NFT art. Now, beyond asset ownership, beyond wealth generation, one of the things that ownership does, it helps those owners fit in and stand out. And like a supreme top or another item, it basically helps individuals identify themselves and identify themselves to certain communities and help them fit in.
That's great. Yeah. And so to kind of bring that strategy to life, we're looking at how Instagram is really moving into digital collectibles in a big way. So the social media platform announced an upcoming feature where they'll be able to actually help users mint NFTs, use those NFTs as a profile photo, and ultimately browse an NFT marketplace all within the Instagram platform. And this is going to be supported by blockchain technology, and it's going to actually facilitate Instagram creators to be able to leverage these new tools to earn income and then also helping fans to support their favorite creators, right? By purchasing these digital collectibles in the form of everything from art, images, and videos, music, or trading cards as NFTs. And so to actually participate in this, we're gonna see how consumers go ahead and connect that digital wallet to Instagram. They're gonna be able to browse and acquire these digital collectibles. And then they're gonna be able to share them via their own profile pictures and post. And so looking ahead, this integration will make it possible for items like digital collectibles to move between platforms such as Instagram, as well as that broader metaverse experience. So there's a play there as well, and being able to connect social platforms as well as immersive and digital ones too.
Let's turn now and talk to Isadora Yamamoto, who is a meta poet and a Web3 strategist. Hi, Isadora.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. I know you're calling in from Amsterdam today. I'd love to kind of just talk to you a little bit about NFT art, and how you see the space, especially about how people are using that art as for identity, and also how they're using that identity as a way to belong.
That's definitely an interesting question. I think NFT is a gateway into something bigger. It adds value to something more than ourselves. It's also new, so it's an exciting moment to be in and to experiencing it. I think being part of a community and a network of culture of the NFT ecosystem is very important, and it gives opportunity for a real connection with like-minded minds. And it's also one of the most important things, it brings importance of provenance to NFT, enabling you to verify changes in ownership information through the blockchain technology.
So you can prove that you can be part of this, you're part of this group, I guess, is what's happening. So not only can you signify that you own this, you've invested in a group, but you actually can prove it as well.
Absolutely, through the ether scan. So it's almost like if we take it into real world context and not digital, it's almost like owning a Rolex. I mean, there's so many Rolexes, fake ones that are even, ticks like a Rolex, but how do you actually can tell? You couldn't tell if a person's just wearing it next to you. With NFT purchases and transfers, anybody is able to go into the NFT and look at the smart contracts and really dig into the information and have accessibility.
Okay, so maybe this is a great moment to talk to Louisa St. Pierre. Nice to have you here. You're calling in from New York City today, so it's great to have you. And especially with your kind of focus on artists, it'd be great to kind of ask you to talk about what's happening with this kind of NFT art space. How the kind of audience, both the artists and the buyers, kind of using this art to kind of create communities, allow people to have kind of that sense of belonging.
It's really exciting for artists because, they haven't necessarily been involved with communities in this way before, and certainly not, communities that are so hyper engaged, communities that have so many expectations, which is, both good and bad. In Discord, again, you see all of this activity. Suddenly there's this crowdsourcing mentality where these individuals and companies in some instances are engaging with artwork, engaging with artists direct, but being able to influence how that artwork is actually used. So, with the NFTs and having this kind of programmable utility that can be ever changing, you buy your NFT, there's purpose to it. So it could unlock access to fantastic events, both digitally and in real life, whether that's Decentraland, Sandbox, or Crypto Voxels, or your own metaverse that you're creating, or it's some kind of fantastic merchandise, something very exclusive, or future NFTs that, perhaps have some incredible value. So when you look at, say, Jeff Staple and his collaboration with Artifact, kind of genius, really. It's a sneaker. We all know the value of sneakers, and especially customized sneakers. But what that went on to unlock was access to other NFTs with tremendous value. And I think that's the significant difference with NFTs. You have this authenticated piece of art, but it's a living, breathing kind of social passport. It's this members club that you suddenly become part of.
So, okay, let's explore this point around NFT art and this kind of concepts of it being used as a token for belonging, a signal to be part of something bigger. Let's talk to Michael Littman.
Thanks very much for having me, Piers.
Great. I know you're calling in from London, and I think you have you're going to provide us some interesting perspective, both you advise brands specifically about this new era of technology, and you're kind of very active in the space on a personal level. I mean, in terms of these kind of digital art pieces, these NFT art pieces, can you talk to me a little bit about this kind of theme that we're exploring around people using them to kind of identify themselves and belong to a kind of a larger group?
Yeah, for sure. So, I think of NFTs in many ways as the new flex. And, fashion is a great way for people to project their personality, their identity, and their values across to people in the real world. And, this is based on the clothes, the accessories, the sneakers that they wear. You align to certain sets of fandoms without even maybe realizing it. And NFTs for me are like these sort of cultural artifacts where, now they're the way to express your identity, your personality, and to a degree, your status to a much wider audience online. And particularly for a brand, this is really important to think about because it's really not all about the actual technical minting process of creating NFTs. It's actually how a brand uses them to foster community and provide individuals with a sense of membership and loyalty, shared values and status. Because for me, NFTs are in a way brand symbols, and it's still up to brands and marketers to imbue those symbols with meaning and value. And that's where I think it gets really interesting from a brand POV, but also from an NFT POV.
That's great. So let's now talk about the second strategy within this section about strategies to embrace and pursue today. This is around collectibles, and it's really about releasing collections of NFT art, which allows fans of your brand, fans of your IP, to prove that they are fans of your IP, your intellectual properties.
And so here we're looking at this NFT agency Autograph, which is really creating a new type of sport collecting economy. This is founded by Tom Brady, the quarterback, and the NFT agency Autograph is collaborating with companies like ESPN and then individual athletes as well to mint and tokenize some of the greatest sports moments of all time. So through Autograph, fans interested in investing in a specific digital sports collectible are now able to quote unquote own a specific sports moment or play from their favorite athletes. And so some of those athletes that are participating with Autograph are everyone from Simone Biles, Derek Jeter, Tony Hawk, and more. And so in addition to owning this unique piece of memorabilia digitally, Autograph owners are actually going to be able to access different ongoing talk series and events that'll be hosted by Autograph and are going to be featuring all of these players and athletes. And that's going to be hosted within Autograph's own Discord channel. So there's an element of kind of building on that community aspect here as well, beyond just that one token, and kind of continuing an ongoing experience for fans.
That's really interesting, Lauren. I think on that point, let's go talk to Melody Hildebrands. Great to have you here, Melody.
My pleasure, Pierce.
Yeah, I know you've been exploring particularly collectibles, and I'd love for you to talk about your point of view when it comes to brand owners, IP owners, leveraging NFT technology to create collectibles and engage audiences.
Awesome. Yeah, Blockchain Creative Labs is excited about how we feel like we can bring a more mainstream audience kind of into this overarching Web3 world where we are enabling this concept of digital ownership, that's backed by blockchain technology at scale. And we're excited to do that in partnership with really trusted brands who have audiences who adore them. And we feel like this is an opportunity. Collectibles kind of in that first step where these audiences can feel like they own a piece of the action, that they're owners in some way, kind of in this brand in a way that they've never been before. They've always been a consumer, right? But how can we allow this kind of digital ownership through collectibles or general NFTs as kind of these building blocks to feel like they actually have more of a stake in the action? And that's through shows like The Masked Singer, which is the #1 unscripted show on television. The audience that we activated there is not a traditional crypto audience, right? But through kind of owning these NFTs, they feel like they are, they have exclusive access that they wouldn't have otherwise. They're closer to the production, they're closer to the talent, and that these collectibles essentially are their ticket to that. And we're doing similar things with the WWE, with the USFL. So again, these are brands that have trusted relationships with their fans, and we really want to respect that relationship and find a way to use this technology to make it a bit more bi-directional.
Yeah, I think what's great about both those examples is how you've engaged as mainstream as you can get type audience, and and still being able to use a very advanced technology, or and still be able to connect with them.
Exactly. I think a lot of the key to that is to really kind of abstract away a little bit of that underlying complexity. I think most consumers don't care too much which blockchain you've built on. We of course want to hold true to the right cryptographic principles, that we want to build things in a way that, is true to the spirit of Web3 around openness and decentralization. But the end user shouldn't necessarily need to be able to understand all those details to be able to participate. So we want to have kind of a barrier to entry that is open to the fan. The experiences are about the fan. They're not about speculators. They're not about, thinking about these as investments. They're about the fan experience. And when you optimize that way, you end up, I think, abstracting away a lot of the technical complexity.
Thanks so much, Melody. So maybe we can build on that last point and we can turn to Val Vacanti. Val, you're calling in from Austin today, yeah?
Yes. Down in Austin.
Great to have you here today. Maybe we can just talk a little bit more about, this idea of this sort of proof of fandom of, and have you seen any examples out there?
In terms of proof of fandom, I think it really depends on how you look at it. So one of the things we're seeing is NFTs meet experiential. So let's talk about experiential for a moment. With that, there's a couple of really great examples. I think for brands, it's all about easy access to everyone when it comes to this NFT experiential. As we're talking about today, a lot of people, they're still trying to get familiar with NFTs. So when it comes to NFT experiential, there's been a great example out there with Flowcode. Now, Flowcode, they are sort of creators of, they make it easy access QR code generator, but they've teamed up with a partnership with Pope, which is proof of attendance protocol. And basically what they did at a recent concert, when we talk about fandom, you're going to a concert, you're going to go sort of celebrate your music there. But what they did there is that they enabled experiences for participants to have that sort of scan and collect experience there. And because it was so simple through their QR code function, over 90% of concert goers claimed NFTs. And these are people who were not familiar with NFTs before. So that's a great example of fandom meets experiential meets NFTs in a super simple way.
Yeah, there's another example of kind of the mainstreaming of the use of this technology, probably without putting the technology in front and center of the consumer experience.
I think that's exactly right, Piers. I think that's where there's a lot of concern from a consumer experience standpoint. It's like, hey, what is this wallet thing, and how much do I do it? So I think that turnkey way is a great example of it.
That's great. So let's get into the next section, where brands, retailers need to look in terms of their immediate future and how they can get involved with NFT technology to engage their customers. We're going to talk about strategies around the transparent ledger. We're going to talk about members-only access, and we're also going to talk about loyalty activated rewards. And this first one is around how can you as a business build consumer trust with a ledgered supply chain or business practices? So as you can begin to digitize physical assets, digitize and create them as NFTs, these digital twins, you can begin to track them along the supply chain. And from the moment you buy the crop from the farmer through to the sale in the store, even into the use of that product by the end user. And what that allows us to do as brands and retailers is provide a level of transparency to our business process. And so we can show the sustainable practices, or we can show fair labor practices, and we can provide other levels of transparency that we know today the consumer is demanding.
Yeah, and a great example of that transparent experience is coming from Koa, which is a Swiss chocolate maker. And they're really integrating transparency directly into their process of paying their employees. So they're based in Ghana. They're chocolate farmers, and Koa is showing exactly how much each farmer is making in relation to the amount they sold. And all of this is being tracked on a blockchain log. And so mobile payments are recorded on a supply chain platform they're using called Seed Trace, and provides the small scale farmers that are employed by Koa this more equitable experience, right? A lot more transparent in how they're being paid. And as we see a lot of activity around taking care of employees, that's been a big theme throughout the pandemic and continues to be. Fair employment, and then the social impact, of how you're treating employees and across your supply chain as well. It's really becoming more important and more widely analyzed by consumers. So using that blockchain as a tool for this type of hyper transparency as it relates to the employee experience will definitely be a loyalty boosting action.
So let's turn to Isadora again. Isadora, you were talking about ledgers earlier and traceability. I mean, this sort of traceability seems to provide an incredible opportunity for brands, especially when it comes to kind of trust and authenticity. I wonder whether you could talk to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for brands, traceability is definitely a challenge. To be able to say a company is sustainable, and traceability, where does it actually stop? How sustainable is your funnel of production down to the sourcing? I think change is difficult for anyone, let alone, a big established brand that has legacy, culture, and community already. And I think the shift, with the NFT, the impact that it's having in many companies and in culture and just the whole world, it really brings the urgency for the culture behind the business model to reevaluate, rethink, and reestablish. And it brings the question, how can we enhance our business? And also, which I love, is to consider, the approach of more holistic.
Because I guess kind of ultimate traceability and transparency can be scary as well to an organization. So
absolutely.
Yeah. But I guess then it allows them to consider where the kind of the rough parts of the diamond are, and where they might need to consider, and be honest about some aspects. I think some organizations can't avoid some things as part of their kind of supply chain or logistics.
Absolutely. And it was probably not even on their radar. So it's, I think, a beautiful moment for any business to, hey, I wasn't aware. Let me do a deep dive in my business model, and how can I provide a solution? Because at the end of the day, I think, once again, NFT is a gateway to step into the Gen Z audience. That's a for sure. The metaverse is already existing, with our children and roadblocks, and it's already there. People are not being introduced to metaverse now. Us adults, most likely, but our children are living in this world already. And I think that building transparency, it builds authentic and unique connection with the audience as well for the business. And I think the core behavior of the Gen Z are anchored in critical thinking and ethics. And of course, in marketing, word of mouth, as we know, it is the best marketing in the world. Having a viral, post or social media, I think it really empowers and drives the business, in a way that was unmanageable. So it's scary. There's a lot of unknowns, but I think being open and, working together, I think it's a great opportunity for any business. And of course, the best utility of an NFT are the people and their community, and cultivating a culture.
So another strategy that can be pursued is this idea of providing special members only access. So as we know, we can provide NFT owners access to exclusive experiences, exclusive networks, airdrops, product drops, access to communities and parties, because we know who they are and we know what they own, and we understand their history and relationship with us.
Yeah, and so here, thinking about this members only access, we wanted to highlight Caring, which is a luxury holding company, and how they're using Discord to promote a lot of their brands, different NFT projects. And so one to highlight here is Gucci, which is a Caring company, and they've shared an invite to their Discord server on Twitter and gave the first 20,000 users access to a yet to launch NFT channels, assigning them special roles in there as well. So there's a participation element here. And, you know, over 28,000 members joined over the course of 2 days. So there was an immediate buy-in, right, from the consumers to see what was happening in this very exclusive environment, and also accessible though at the same time, which is an interesting way to kind of flip this. And so as we think about new loyalty membership models, the phasing out of cookies as well, this type of access to the consumer input and their feedback, and then just getting their buy-in via members only channels like Discord will play an interesting role going forward.
Yeah, I've seen there's on the Discord, the screen grab show to the left, a message from the kind of the creative director, who basically talks about why this happens. And on the right, there's an invite to a special party for token holders in Los Angeles that happened in March. So maybe this is a moment to turn back to Melody. Melody, you were talking to us a little earlier about kind of the NFTs as a first point of engaging your audiences, especially with kind of crypto. Maybe could you talk about where that goes beyond that, how NFTs, NFT technology can allow customers, audiences to have access, to have exclusive experiences and so forth?
Sure. Yeah, we really view these NFTs as being kind of these building blocks, right, for kind of a new paradigm for community engagement with a brand. And that by kind of owning these digital assets, and because of the underlying principles that allow us to really have confidence in the ownership, that essentially is signaling that like a fan is there for the right reason, and that they've earned their place, right, to be able to potentially have a different stature kind of in the community and with respect to the brand. So a few examples, I mean, for The Masked Singer, for example, you know, this is a show that, you know, millions of people watch every year or every week. And the show historically, like, didn't really have much of a way to differentiate that audience. Like, they'd be on Twitter, they'd be on, you know, these social media platforms, but how do you know who's a good actor, who's a real fan, right? But through NFTs now, we've been able to, like, people can really show their fandom, right? Like the people who want to like collect an entire collection of the Crawleys because they're obsessed with this creative thread in the show, and they're like super experts about all of it. And the way that they were able to like earn those things is actually by voting correctly, you know, on who was going to be unmasked in the show. So the dynamics of how you get the NFT are tied to actually understanding the underlying intellectual property. And those users now get, you know, access to like behind the scenes with the costume designers. And the costume designers for The Masked Singer, for example, have never been public before, because it was just, it was hard to really know how to safely engage with fans. I think it's a really interesting about brand safety, you know, and around, you know, how we can create like a safe space with us on Discord, where we can kind of take the conversation into this environment where it doesn't have all this other noise that's happening in social, and we have like a dedicated space for super fans, you know, to connect. We can give them gated access to like special channels where they've asked me anything, where they have, you know, behind the scenes look, where they have karaoke with the stars, like these fun experiences that the fans just love. So that was our first proof of concept. And I think we realized that, you know, there was this concept of fan club, I mean, fundamentally, or, you know, creator clubs, you know, that we could really tap into and use as underlying technology. And so we're doing that right now with the USFL, brand new spring football league. And we have a concept of team tokens, you know, so if you're one of the first 200 fans, we have 200 of each, of the New Jersey Generals, or of the Houston Gamblers, like that will gain you access to like exclusive experiences. And the thing we're most excited about is launching the player tokens, which is where the players themselves will release NFTs and get the vast majority of the proceeds directly. And that we think is another really interesting model where you can take this underlying technology, these athletes who themselves are creators, who in some cases have massive TikTok followings, massive Instagram followings, but the way that they monetize that is often like indirect, right? They might do an ad posting, or they're trying to build their brand, right? In NFTs, you can have this very direct financial relationship, right? Where if you can have a call to action to your fans, like buy my NFT, you love that athlete. And you know that when you actually buy that NFT, that call it 80% of the money is going directly to his wallet. We think that's really powerful. And that's like the power of the technology to kind of decentralize, and to actually enable more one-to-one relationships.
I love that. I got one quick question, which is, where is the role of the advertiser in these communities? So you talked a lot about audience, you talked about the IP owner or the creator. Where are you at with kind of like, how do we kind of bring in traditionally who's the advertisers who sponsor the shows and things like that?
Yeah, I'm really bullish on this space. Fox fundamentally, we are an advertising driven business.
Louisa, you were talking about artists and how they have to kind of create and continue to create, kind of engage communities. Could you talk about how these NFTs provide access to communities, special access, special opportunities, special offers?
Yep. I actually think there are two exemplary use cases here. The first is with Jeff Staple, who's an early adopter to the space, collaborated with Artifact before they were acquired by Nike, and did a pigeon sneaker, a meta pigeon, as I recall, which unlocked access later to some really heavy hitting NFTs, which for the sort of OG collectors who live in the community, they live in Discord, they live in the metaverse, this is very important. Also, you see brands like Adidas with RNA and G Money, who's an influencer who discovered a new identity and community within the NFT world. They launched, I think, very successfully because they plugged into the already living, breathing, extremely vibrant, remunerative community that's Bored Ape Yacht Club. But the first NFT drop, which was a Bored Ape of some kind, unlocked utility and access to limited edition merchandise. It will unlock access to events. Art Basel last year was fascinating because there were two crypto NFT conferences, and you would have lines that were VIP lines, the VIP lines for events, and then you'd have your Bored Ape Yacht Club line, which was, the VVVIP. But what I loved about that is the members have all their kind of limited edition merchandise on. They really feel a strong affinity and a true sense of identity and belonging with this community. And I've never seen an artwork device or art show up in a magazine. You think about our heritage of subscribing to particular publications and feeling an affinity for that. So it might have been Paper magazine in New York or Smash Hits if anybody in the audience remembers Smash Hits in the UK, there wasn't that interactivity. You couldn't crowdsource. You couldn't give an opinion that might actually create a dialogue and have this living, breathing community that could actually affect change through artwork, through NFTs. It's fascinating.
So much great stuff going on, so many interesting ideas, and it's going to be super interesting to see how we can evolve kind of the customer brand audience relationship with new ideas that we haven't really thought about before. So as we think about this next section, we're going to finish off with this recommendation to offer loyalty activated rewards. Okay, so we can see that brands and retailers are providing tokens as a reward to customers for loyal behavior, for repeat purchases, for being involved in the brand, whether it's on the discussions on the Discord server, community engagement, and more. And so these NFTs can be redeemed for goods and services. They can be gamified also to encourage customers to collect more and engage the brand further.
Yeah, and so thinking about this loyalty activated rewards, we wanted to highlight ASICS. And the sneaker company has designed really a move to earn system that gamifies exercise. And they've developed this alongside Web3 company StepIn. And Move to Earn rewards ASICS NFT owners for their step count. Users can earn crypto when their step count is recorded within a GPS-enabled mobile app. And for their part, this type of rewarded loyalty not only engages the ASICS community in a value-driven way, but also creates another channel for ASICS to activate around their consumers and inspire perhaps, a next gen of runners, everyday athletes to really buy into their brand here.
Yeah, what happens here, Lauren, is you can buy an NFT shoe, ASICS shoe. Sometimes you can know what you're going to get, and sometimes it's a surprise. And the shoe might be a walking shoe, a running shoe, maybe a cycling shoe as well. And so if you're running with a running shoe, you might get extra points because of extra features as well. So really interesting to kind of see like the evolution of these sort of fitness trackers and see where this could go next. So Lauren, maybe this is the moment to talk to Diana Richter. Hi, Diana, great to have you here.
Hi, great to be here.
Great. So let's kind of just build on this discussion around loyalty programs. Talk about how NFTs can be used as tools to reward customers. I wonder whether you can comment on that.
Sure. I think my first thought on that is that NFTs, just because you're using an NFT doesn't mean your loyalty program works. So I think it's really important to understand what your customers want to be rewarded with, or how they want to be rewarded and how they will come back and continue to shop, because NFTs aren't necessarily a fantastic solution, but they certainly can be, in that what they allow for is trust and authentication and obviously what they stand for, non-fungibility. So if you are a holder of an NFT, you have that access, and no one else can say they have the same thing. So it can certainly facilitate a more authentic and trustless loyalty program that, in other instances perhaps might not have the same impact, because they can be hacked or scammed or gamed, and I think that's kind of a key innovation with NFTs.
That's great. So there's opportunities. Just it's not just kind of relying on the technology or the functionality, but actually being able to be creative enough to apply it to engage people and engage.
Yeah. And I think, I think there are some great examples that you actually call out in your report. And I think ASIC's example with StepIn is a really fantastic one of actually using NFTs in a native way. So StepIn is a move to earn platform that I currently use. So I've been trying to walk all over the place, and I earn tokens for my steps. And those tokens actually have dollar value, and that value goes up or down with the market. It's a token. And so in ASIC's case, perhaps their customer I view that as a cashback or rewards program that perhaps would have been a little bit more difficult to implement in another traditional loyalty structure. So in that respect, I think there are some really interesting ways to work with NFTs. But a straightforward kind of, here's an NFT and it unlocks discounts. Do you really need an NFT to do that? Or could you just, use the same tools or mechanisms that we've been using in ecom for the past 10 years?
So let's turn back to Michael. Michael, you were earlier talking about how brands can provide NFTs and help their audiences, their customers, kind of feel connected, be part of that community. Maybe we can touch upon how brands can take that a step further, how that brands can provide a level of access or a sort of kind of feeling of membership.
Yeah, so I see NFTs as, sort of like the future of loyalty, marketing, community, and in some ways CRM for the most progressive brands out there. And if we think of the most popular brand loyalty ecosystems in retail, for example, such as having an Amex card. For starters, that Amex credit card, it being gold or platinum as a card, it gives a sense of status and cool factor in being part of that club. And in addition to having that card, you get the Amex reward points for using the card. And you only get those points if you have the card and you're in that ecosystem. So I see NFTs as a potential future Amex rewards program for every brand, where it could be really transformational for a brand to now enter into this Web3 space with a program that connects user profiles with crypto wallets. And why is that interesting to a brand? Because it gives a brand the ability to then offer that continuous value over the long term through sending through benefits and rewards and kind of tailored interests through maybe airdrops through to people's crypto wallets. And this changes marketing for me from being short-term tactical campaigns and launches to long-term programs that offer this continuous value exchange over a years-long period. And also, if you imagine Amex themselves entering into this space, what could they offer to all of the existing customers that have an Amex? Imagine they did an airdrop for everyone that has an Amex. It'd increase brand sentiment, loyalty, brand love. It would be amazing. So, I think brands using NFTs to give access and exclusive experiences and communities is the next frontier for brands in the NFT space. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, well, as you know, we are very excited about kind of the opportunity. We're big believers that tokens, NFT technology is going to just change the way that brands can interact with audiences and vice versa. So let's return and talk about the final section that we have in our research, having this report that PSFK produced. And we're talking about more future forward strategies that you in your organizations or for your clients can pursue. And this is around using NFT technology as a platform to new ideas, okay? So the strategies we have here would talk about how working with holders, working with owners as if they're co-creators in your business. We're going to talk about crowdfunding, and particularly crowdfunding for impact initiatives. And then we're also going to round out with this talk about sharing the royalties, sharing the wealth. When it comes to working with owners as co-creators, we're able, NFT technology enables us to understand the contribution of the people, the audience around us, the people around us, the creators around us. We can understand how they're going to contribute. Are they going to come up with a product design? Are they going to come up with a flavor recommendation? And not only can we track that recommendation, but we can track the impact of that recommendation over time as well. And so if that flavor becomes the best-selling ice cream, that co-creator could be rewarded as a result of that initial contribution.
Yeah, so looking here at this idea of owners as co-creators, we're highlighting Fireside Entertainment. And Fireside is a new platform for content creators. And the production team behind the show of Entourage is creating an interactive show using Fireside. It's going to be titled Ramble On. And super fans will be able to access the production process by purchasing an NFT membership card. And this will actually grant you a voice in the writer's room. So there's a added element here after the initial purchase, right? And this is going to be providing those NFT users the ability to influence what they ultimately view and also take that personal ownership in the final product when the show rolls out.
So Isadora, let's turn to you again and just talk about the opportunities there are for brands to use NFT technology to engage their communities, to develop new products, new ideas, actually look into other business sectors.
I think one of the beautiful things that we see in NFT is the collaboration, right? Like the collaboration into the future based on an open source mentality and accessibility, once again, which I mentioned previously, into the Etherscan. Currently, I believe that we're in the process to decentralize the way that we think, and it's an exciting time, building deeper connections and stronger storytelling. And for example, partnering up with a charity to make a bigger impact, and one quote that I go by is, together we are stronger, and really building that ecosystem based on inclusion, diversity, and empowerment, giving power really back to the hands of the creator, to the freedom, right, for them to create. And let us consider NFT as a part of the R&D process. NFT ecosystem provides a community where brands can grow and have a bigger impact with a product line.
So maybe this is a good moment to talk to Justin Bilbrain. It's great to have you here, Justin, from Paris.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
Could we talk a little bit about collaboration and how companies can collaborate with their customers and creators to develop new products, new ideas, new concepts?
Yeah, I think what the blockchain and Web3 has brought us to today, and to put into the history of how we arrived here today, I think Web2 was kind of a booming element with all social media, and everyone can share and appropriate themselves some content. And with Web3, it's really like you own your own content. So for example, for each artist, it's very valuable to be able to trace and to know the value of their own content. And in terms of brand, it's a new form of understanding future generation. So we've seen brand when Web2 started being like, I don't need a website. Why would I need to sell something on a website? People come to my store. And 3 years later, everyone had a website. And nowadays, we can't, who doesn't have a website where they sell their product? So I think NFT is doing is creating internally in your company, in your brand, a community of people that you can relate to. Whether you're an artist or whether you a whole identity, is really bringing the advantage of communication and collaboration inside your own community. It's rewarding your own community, is celebrating as well, is a lot of internal aspects. And it's like, for example, you have a membership with Soho House. Well, it's the same thing. You have the NFT of this brand, of this community, part of them. So I see like the Web3 and NFT more as like the future of social media, like the way that is your representation inside the world, like Web3, and you can't lie about it. I bought this NFT, I'm part of this community. I bought this NFT as a piece of art. This is my curation that's going in. I'm buying this 3D fashion. This is how I want to dress up in the metaverse. So it's really like an identity that customers are bringing in, as well as for brands to be able to communicate with their customer.
Yeah, that's great. It kind of wraps up a bunch of the themes that we've been talking about today. So let's talk about crowdfunding impact in the initiatives. It's really about the revenues that can be generated through the sale and transactions of NFTs and how that can be used to for social impact projects, charities, sustainable missions.
Yeah, and a really great example of this is coming from Taco Bell and their NFT scholarship. The fast food chain released a taco GIF as an NFT, and all proceeds go to the quick service restaurants Live Moss Scholarship through the Taco Bell Foundation. And so how it works, NFTs grant access to a physical gift card of $500 to Taco Bell for the original owner. And there was a limited amount of people who would access this, but it was all randomized. And so some of the NFTs sold for only $1 or $2, resulting in a trade-off of, a dollar's worth in cryptocurrency for $500 in fast food as a thank you for contributing, right? And so all of the proceeds that they generated from this launch went to that scholarship fund. And I like this example because it's using NFTs to really support that social impact initiative. It's creating an accessible price point for customers to engage with both that fundraiser as well as this new digital currency, right? And then they're also, creating a new digital connection between Taco Bell and its customers where they can continue to really build on that relationship, either through additional NFT drops or new rewards for those who have already bought in.
So maybe we turn to Louisa again here. Louisa, have you seen any examples where funds have been created as a result of kind of NFT sales and have been applied to new projects?
Absolutely. I'm in the middle of a fantastic one at the moment called Fear City, which has some really interesting partners, from Jeff Staple with Stapleverse to an animation company called Mind Show, gaming, all sorts of utility and fantastic possibilities. But it started as a tiny NFT idea that was really just going to be some artwork. And then the journey that we went on made us realize that actually we had to give back to this living, breathing community of 34,000 Twitter followers, 18,000 on Discord, who are able to voice their point of view in a really engaged, active, very sweet way, actually. There's fan art, there's fan music. But this morning we were contemplating which charity should we donate to. And we decided that, a fairly big chunk, 40% of the net revenue should go back into the treasury. And now we're deciding how we should allocate that. So it's a business plan of sorts. But with Web3, there's a certain level of transparency, but also this interactivity, like, hey, fans, we're going to do some pay-to-play games. Does anybody have a point of view about that? Or, hey, community, we have opportunity to make a film. Do you have a point of view about that? Also, when you look at the business model of museums and donations there and how they're very reliant on specific patrons, now actually there's opportunity to have a little bit more autonomy, fundraise in a radically different way.
Justin, maybe I can ask you a question as to whether you've seen any good examples about how funds have been raised through NFTs, sale of NFTs to fund new projects, new ideas.
Actually, a lot of women got funds from Sandbox to be able to educate and bring more women into the Web3 ecosystem. So that was a really interesting project. I know some actress are selling token and NFT to be able to fund their movies. So there's many ways that the blockchain can be used. And I think something that's really interesting in the blockchain itself for funding something is that you know where your money is going. So let's say I give my money to charity in fiat money. Who knows how much percentage of this is going to go in someone's pocket and not used for the actual charity. Or like if I put it in the blockchain, I can totally see where my money is going in which wallet and what that wallet activity is in terms of transfer. So I think this is a bit of a reason why government are getting a bit skeptic about that position. But I think it's a really good way for charity to be able to get money as well as a project to be able to use blockchain to raise funds.
Thank you so much for that. So as we round up the webinar today, we want to end with this idea around sharing the royalties, sharing this wealth. So because we can use blockchain ledgers, because we can use talk to NFT owners of NFT, we understand who they are, and we can also track the collaborators in these decentralized autonomous organizations. We can fairly and accurately reward their contributions, no matter whether they play a small part or they play a major part in our brand engagement.
And so looking here, we have another media and entertainment example here, a new show coming out called Crapopolis, and they're playing on this Web3 co-creation movement as a new TV show. It's going to be an animated series curated entirely on the blockchain. And the new show includes a dedicated marketplace that curates digital goods from one-of-kind NFTs to tokens that will have exclusive social experiences tied to them and reward these super fans. And the show's NFT shop is going to include background art developed in real time by super fans. And so this is where it's interesting and kind of ties into that royalties idea here. So the different digital art created by these super fans is going to be available for purchase as NFTs on this marketplace. And this marketplace is merging both this fan art with official branded merchandising, rewarding creators for both their participation and also their merchandise contributions as well. So an interesting way that this is already coming to life now.
So thanks, Lauren. Maybe we can build on that and talk to Val. Val, do you have any tips when it comes to how brands and creators can collaborate together?
Well, I think one of the biggest ways or biggest advice for brands, right, breaking into this space, because it is still new to a lot of brands, is really collaboration and partnership. Those are the most authentic accelerator that you can do for your brand. Really don't try and build all of this stuff yourself. Find that really authentic partner that is going to empower creativity and community and a little bit of commerce too, because we're all in business, right? But a great, just probably my most favorite example of that at the moment is really Nike and Artifact. They've done a brilliant job in terms of creating Monolith and having these sort of unlock almost Russian doll like experiences, through everything sort of Artifact is building and creating. And then on top of that, we're seeing where virtual sneakers are now thousands of dollars more than that physical product experience. And so I think what they're doing, and that's from a creative standpoint, a commerce standpoint, but when we think about a community standpoint, Artifact have done a brilliant job of bringing this sort of community of creators, collectors, collaborators together. And what happened in New York City last week at the big launch event is a prime example of that. So, for all of you here, hey, if you go through Twitter and you're looking at sort of CloneX, Artifact, New York City, you will see that sort of togetherness that's happening. And, with Nike's acquisition of it, again, building on that sort of powerhouse of both brand strengths.
Let's turn to Web right now, who writes about all things Web3, NFTs at the Drum. And I wonder, Web, if you can talk to me about whether there's a role for brands, retailers in the web space, and how they should actually act and behave?
A lot of the motivation behind the Web3 movement has come from a place of distrust of the mega tech corporations that have controlled the flow of information for a long time, and the sort of centralized hierarchical authorities that have just tended to have some disproportionate share of control over assets in our economy, like banks, for example. One of the big reasons that crypto has really taken off is because people, many people, have decided that it would be better, more advantageous to the average person if money was taken out of the direct control of centralized banks and put into the hands of individuals. But that's not to say that all organizations as such do not have a role to play in Web3. And a lot of the people that I speak with in this space do view brands as playing an important role here. And, we're already seeing the rise of many legacy brands, quote unquote, having an important role to play in the burgeoning Web3 space. Brands like Nike and Adidas come to mind. Many high-end fashion brands have already successfully launched their own very popular NFT launches, for example. And people in the Web3 community really see many of them really see brands as helping to bring people into this space. But it isn't enough, Pierce, for brands to just talk the talk, in other words, to mouth the values of Web3, which are, I can't stress this enough, like foundational to this movement. This is a very value-based phenomenon that's happening. Like, brands really have to go into this with an open-minded orientation and be willing to learn, be willing to make mistakes even, and be willing to directly engage with the folks that are already engaged with Web3 to learn as they go along, and really incorporating that feedback from their community. So that has to be the first step, a willingness to learn and engage before they presume to make any sort of contribution to the Web3 movement.
Maybe let's turn back to Diana Richter at Consensus Mesh. And Diana, I'd just love to talk to you a little bit more about this kind of creator economy, this concept, or the creator economy, and how we're able to kind of track, reward contributions by creators. And I wonder whether there is an opportunity for a kind of a more fair relationship with brands, a more honest way, and maybe there's kind of that could lead to even more interesting collaborations. Do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, so I think it's been interesting that the first movers in really capitalizing on Web3 and creating a community around their fans and a community of shared ownership and shared incentives have really been in the music space. I mean, we've seen in the last year some more Web3 native examples like Blau and Rack, but even huge bands like Kings of Leon and others that have really leveraged NFTs to provide access, and then also a sense of, ownership, whether that be via voting rights or an opportunity to actually, participate in greater decision making that an artist might take in their career, and then see the upside of those decisions that are being made. And I think it will be fascinating to see what happens in the longer term. But I don't know if you saw what Starbucks released recently in the past few days about the community they're building. And, they don't articulate directly how they're planning to use Web3 and what it's going to mean in the immediate future for their loyalists, but they definitely speak to this idea of ownership and involving and inviting their most loyal supporters to participate in, hopefully not just in like a broader digital community, but feeling like they own a piece of the pie. So we at Mesh are especially interested in the creator economy in terms of how it relates to DAOs. So this is where we start to get maybe a little bit more native to Web3, but it's something that is core to our ethos. DAOs are decentralized autonomous organizations, and they are essentially cooperatives. So in the way that REI has always worked as a cooperative among its members, and I am a member of REI, and I look forward to that month or annual payday. DAOs are finding ways via tokens, and those tokens might be NFTs, or they have to be non-fungible, so they will be NFTs, that allow contributors to those communities to be rewarded. And due to the token structure in the code, the actual program of that token, the programming of that token, it should by nature be trustless and fair. And your users or the community should have confidence in what they're participating in. Obviously, I think there's still, we always say it's early, but it really is early. DAOs are incredibly early, and there is so much infrastructure that needs to be built for DAOs, I think, to really become part of the mainstream. But I think the idea that these cooperatives can live digitally, and you can better incentivize and better compensate your power users and power customers to continue to be contributors will be huge and have great impact.
Yeah, that's great. As we come to the conclusion to the webinar today, I think helping us kind of wrap up and kind of go, okay, where does this all ladder up to, or this kind of use of token technology, ledgers and things like that. And actually it doesn't end. It just kind of then it introduces us to not only a rewriting of the way audience brands and their audiences can interact with each other, but also how business runs itself as well. So that's for the next webinar, I guess. Yeah, but I appreciate I appreciate those closing comments from you, Diana. Thank you. So we want to thank you for staying with us today, staying with us so that we can walk through these kind of three larger steps, thinking about what to do now and how to use NFTs to provide unique value experiences, what to do next, where we can use NFTs as tokens to provide access and membership, and then what we can prepare for in the future, where we can think about using NFT technology as platforms to new ideas. So we've been excited to have you join us today. I want to thank all the experts for joining us today. Laura, thank you for being part of this and researching this great report.
Of course, thank you everyone for joining us today. We appreciate it. And we also really appreciate all our experts. So thank you as well for joining.
I hope you found this inspiring and it gave you direction. Do check out the report at psfk.com, and I hope to see you at the next webinar. Bye-bye.
The contents of this webinar have been inspired by studies conducted by the PSFK research team. Their reports are part of a collection of over 400 reports that share innovation strategies and brand CX in retail. And this library is updated weekly and can be found in the PSFK IQ Business Intelligence platform.